Hey, here we go. Monday, June 11th, Sports Bet Betting Insight today. Paulie and Teddy, SBRpicks.com. I'm at Real Sports Bet. He's at Teddy_covers. New York Giants today. Team preview. NFC East continues. Play of the day. We'll talk Cubs and Brewers. Cubs have Milwaukee's number. Battle for first place. We'll recap a busy weekend in the world of sports as well. Shot clock play of the day before we get out of here. Next year's NBA odds, and let the madness begin with LeBron James, where he'll wind up next year. Bad beats, bad bets, bad for the books. A horrible beat if you had the Astros first five. They led 6-0 in the bottom of the second with Keuchel. Rangers tied it. You didn't even cash the ticket, 6-6 after five, although the Astros win on a balk, Teddy. Well, that was a wild game, and that's a tough beat if you can't even cash a ticket with a 6-run lead in the second inning.
Yeah. Well, especially, when you talk about the first five lines, you're going to have more tough beats when you're shortening the period that you're wagering on. Same story with half bets in college football or quarter bets in the NBA. The lines are going to be tighter, but, geez, you got a 6-run lead. You're supposed to cash that ticket. With Keuchel on the hill on the Astros, didn't happen last night. Tough beat for first five bettors who had the Houston Astros.
If you watched this game on last night, there was two good games last night. Super Regionals College World Series. Mississippi State and Vandy, and the Cal State Fullerton Washington game. Washington led 3-0 in the seventh. They blow it. They have to tie it in the ninth, and then Fullerton retakes the lead. Washington gets two in the bottom of the 10th to win. They go to the World Series. Cal State Fullerton goes home. That game was nuts.
Yeah, and, tough beat if you had Fullerton, no question. When Washington's down in the ninth, Washington's down in the 10th. They survive to win in advance. Yeah, you blame the relief pitchers, say you got some good at-bats. But nonetheless, a tough beat for Fullerton backers, not to mention the guys on Cal State Fullerton.
Lose some UFC card. How about every fight on the pay-per-view going to a decision? This started the card. I don't know why this was on the card, but on the TV card, pay-per-view card, CM Punk actually took money, plus 190 down to 175. He lost 30-26 on all three scorecards as Mike Jackson beats him. It was ugly, and Dana White said that should be it. Punk going to be 2 fights and done in the UFC. Jackson also took a selfie in the octagon afterwards. That was a horror show. So money on CM Punk, he never had a chance. And the Rockies, $1.20 up to 150. The Diamondbacks sweep the Rockies on the road, and Goldschmidt goes crazy with a huge weekend.
Sure, and when you talk about Sunday MLB, man, it was a bad day for big chalk in baseball. The Nats, -$3. They go down. The Cubs, -$1.90. They go down. The Red Sox, -220. They go down. And then top it off, Sunday Night Baseball, the Yankees become the last team in all of MLB to get shut out in 2018. And they got shut out in a game where the Mets bullpen was shattered and their starting pitching was dicey. Nonetheless, the Yankees at -270 closed out the day. If you were betting big dogs on Sunday, you had a big day. Hope you cashed some of those juicy underdog tickets.
Yeah. How about that? How about if you had the White Sox to win the series against the Red Sox? Sale was $3 on Friday and got beat. They took 2 out of 3. Bet for the books. Padres under 8 down to 7.5. That was a 3-1 final. Padres have won 4 series in a row. And the Reds, they lost 11 in a row at home to the Cardinals. They win and took money. Plus 125 down to even in that one. Congrats to Justify and Bob Baffert. It happens again with the Triple Crown. Only the second horse to complete the Triple Crown undefeated. He joined Seattle Slew in 1977. Also went against 35 different horses. That's a record. And what Baffert asked of this horse, 5 different races in 120 days, different distances as well. Bravo to Justify. And a wire-to-wire job too, Teddy. A lot of people cashed in that one.
Sure, it certainly helps when you have another horse from the same owner who's blocking everyone from behind.
Oh, I know. How about that?
But nonetheless, Justify. It was Justify versus the field. Basically, pick 'em. Justify gets the job done, and you talk about a wire-to-wire job, hangs on at the end. That's an impressive horse, and he cost me money this last weekend, unfortunately. But the bottom line, Triple Crown winners, good for the sport. There's talk. All right, legalized gambling, horse racing's coming back. This is as good as it gets for horse racing. A guy coming in, winning the Triple Crown, and still, sportsbooks around Vegas, they weren't packed over the weekend when it came to betting on the Belmont.
Gronkowski out of nowhere to finish in second. And of course, Gronk put $69 on it, as well as Gronk finishes in second. We gave out Hofberg in third place. So no luck there with that ticket. How about 538 at 538 on Twitter, World Series future odds? How about running the numbers? They think most of these races are over in the American League. They already know who the playoff teams are going to be.
Yeah, I mean, basically, when you talk about pennant races, look at this. This is from 538. It's about the World Series future odds and the true odds based on their math models, which are certainly worth noting, but the Astros, 19%. The Yankees at 16%. The Cubs at 13%. The Reds at 10%. Chances to win it all. Indians, Dodgers, and Nats, the next three on their list to win the World Series, all at 6% or better. But then you look at 17 teams, less than a 1% chance, including some teams we think about being in contention right now. The Rockies, the Giants, the Phillies, they're all in the NL playoff race. 538 doesn't like any of their chances to reach the World Series and win it. And you talk about the first week of June, there's no playoff chase in the AL already. Look, the Yankees are in. The Red Sox are in. The Indians, I'm going to say they're in, even though they don't have a huge lead.
They're in,
the Astros are in. The only debate is Angels or Mariners. That's the playoff race in the AL. And we're in the first week of June. So when you talk about the contenders, it's not about winning as many games as they can. It's about positioning themselves for the postseason and doing the right moves in June and July and August to keep guys fresh for October, which may say some of these elite teams may not be bet on teams for most of the season. The prices are very high to back them. And the idea of, well, we got to win 105 games. You don't got to do that in the AL this year, not even a little bit.
Yeah, you're right. Good point there. I mean, who's going to catch Cleveland? Detroit? Please. Jeff Sherman at Golf Odds on Twitter at the Westgate here in town does a great job. Really knows his golf, soccer, and NBA. Championship odds are out for next year. Warriors the favorite, then the Rockets, as they're in a tough spot because you can't book this in Las Vegas about where LeBron's going to wind up. Can't bet that. Sixers 4-1, then the Celtics. They are taking a ton of Lakers money. That opened 20-1. It's down to 12-1. They're over six-figure liability already on the Lakers to win the title. And the Cavs are 50-1. Let the insanity begin. Houston, LA, where's LeBron going to wind up next year?
And that is not anything that I'm going to spend 1 minute of my life worrying about. It's not anything I'm going to try to handicap. It's not anything that people who have better things to do should be wasting time with. When LeBron ends up somewhere, we'll handicap from there. I'm not in LeBron's head. I don't know who's making the best offer. I don't know exactly what he wants. We got better things to worry about. That being said, when you talk about these NBA odds, you want to take flyers. And the people who took flyers on Cleveland before LeBron signed in Cleveland after he played in Miami, they didn't cash their tickets, but at least they were in a positive expectation situation to hedge when they got to the finals. Yeah. So you're looking for something like that? I don't know. Spurs at 30-1, Cavs at 50-1, Heat at 50-1. Jazz at 60-1, maybe. But honestly, I don't think any of those teams are going to win the title next year. And it's too early to tell. We haven't seen any offseason moves.
All right. I hope he goes to the Rockets. Rockets or the Lakers. And I think that Cleveland, please, come on. How about that, Teddy? Ooh, ugly. Hey, where's your integrity fee there, huh? Adam Silver? Guy plays 3 games. He said he has a broken hand. Oh, my God.
Yeah. Information the betting public might have wanted to know about before the last 3 games of that series. Games, by the way, Golden State Warriors covered all 3 of those contests. Cleveland did not. And the Cavs were hiding injury information. Thanks for the integrity.
Big game breakdown. Big battle tonight, NL Central, Cubbies and the Brewers. Quintana goes for the Cubbies. He's been on fire. He's $1.28.5 the total under, minus 120. By the way, thanks to Intertop Sportsbook, 22 years online. Sign up, deposit, and win. The Cubs are 7-1 against the Brewers this year. Remember, they had that series not that long ago when they shut them out in every game and got the broom out on them. So killing them this year, 7-1. They can't hit Chicago pitching, and Quintana is 4-1 with an 0.63 in 6 career outings against the Brewers, Teddy.
Yeah, and it's even worse of late. The last 35 innings that Quintana has pitched against Milwaukee, he's given up a grand total of 3 runs. Earned, unearned, 3 runs total in 35 innings of work. And this year, in the 2 meetings against the Brewers, Quintana has shut them down, dominating 5 hits allowed combined in the 2 games while pitching a pair of shutouts. Here's the quote from Brewers manager Craig Counsell. In the last 2 years, Quintana has pitched very nice games against us. We've looked at it. We'll examine some different ways. But if you look at the games, he's made good pitches against us. Our roster hasn't changed significantly, so it's the same matchups. Counsell basically giving credit to Quintana for pitching lights out against the Brewers. Doesn't sound quite as worried about his lineup. He said, we've looked at it. We'll examine some different ways. Best of luck with that. Quintana has certainly owned them. And the Cubs right now coming in, they are a red-hot team. They've won 8 out of 10, 11 out of 14, even though they lost yesterday. And they've won each of their last 5 series. So Chicago starting to crank. Now the weather is warming up.
Yeah, you called that too. Good. We said don't be concerned about the Cubs, even though the offense was struggling early with the cold weather. They did lose yesterday, and that was Hendricks again, who is now past Kershaw for worst ROI for a starter in Major League Baseball. Guerra goes for the Brewers, got a 2.54 ERA in his last 5 outings. Counsell quote, he's been solid. He's given us a chance and put up a bunch of zeros for the majority of his starts. Keeps throwing the ball better. Velocity keeps going up. For someone who didn't start the year in our rotation, he's cemented a spot. End quote, and he's fared well against the Cubs in his career. He's 1-1 with an ERA of 1.80 in 7 career appearances. So a good matchup here as they start this. And as Maddon said too, maybe we start to see the Cubs have been playing well. But when these big-time opponents are going against the Cubs, it brings the best out of them as you see their record against Milwaukee.
Sure. And, the Maddon quote, I think, means a lot here. I thought this was a really good quote from Joe Maddon, talking about a big series. This is for first place in the NL Central, and how he and the Cubs like to approach these type of series. Quote, I think the best way to approach when you're playing really good teams within your division is not to get too far-sighted. This is the micro time, man. It's about Monday. Then it'll be about Tuesday. Then it will be about Wednesday. That's the right approach to take. You're not looking big picture. You're trying to grind out a win today. As a handicapper, I think that is fantastic advice. It's not about big picture. Oh, I'm going to make 50 units this season. Oh, no. Everyone's got these grandiose plans. It's about grinding out a win today, and then grinding out a win tomorrow, and then grinding out a win the next day. That's the nature of what we do. It's not that dissimilar in baseball. Maddon, in my mind, has the right concept and the right mindset, which is at least part of the reason why the Cubs have been so successful the last couple of years, and why they might be so successful tonight. We'll get back to this game when it comes to play of the daytime.
All right, Giants coming up. Team previews continue. A couple thoughts on the chat that Jim Bean likes the Celtics to win it next year. Got a hell of a team. I know, hard to argue with that. Also, Paco pointing out the Padres are rolling. You're right. They're only 5.5 back. Remember, they're the opposite of the Mets. The Mets started 11-1. Now look at their record. And the Padres have won 4 series in a row. I think they have some value today. They're plus $1.70 on the road against St. Louis. St. Louis priced too high today. Padres playing good ball. And good job by the Giants. As Jin Rummy points out, Giants took 2 out of 3 in Washington. And you get the big upset yesterday as Holland, of all people, shuts down the Nationals and beats Scherzer.
Yeah, Jim Bean, the Giants, the best lineup in baseball that nobody's talking about. He also says the Celtics will win it all year. Certainly Boston, a team that has attracted a fair bit of futures attention already. And the line on, I'll tell you what, if you like the Celtics to win it all, I bet it's sooner rather than later, because there's going to be money coming on Boston in the between now and the start of next season. I would anticipate, but on the other hand, you may want to wait till LeBron signs somewhere, because it won't be in Boston. I don't know. I don't do a lot with the NBA future markets over the summer. It's not how I want my money to be held, because you're going to find very similar odds at most books when it comes to the start of the season in October.
All right. The New York Football Giants, win total 6.5, over -160. There's some 7s out there. Last year was a horror show. 2 years ago, they went to the playoffs. Last year, 3-13 straight up, 7-9 ATS, 10-6 to the under, -3 in the turnover margin, 19 takeaways, 22 giveaways. Football Outsiders had them the 25th ranked offense, 21st ranked defense, 26th rush defense, 2nd worst special teams. It was a ton of injuries. Remember, there was that one. Remember the Monday night game against Denver? Eli had no one to throw to him, but they still won the game. Marshall's gone. JPP's gone. They get Solder, Jonathan Stewart. They bring in Ogletree as well. The big acquisition, well, they acquire Barkley in the draft with the second overall pick. So I thought maybe some people thought they'd go quarterback, but apparently they like Webb as well. They did take the kid out of Richmond, Loletta. So strange team, Teddy. Everything went right 2 years ago. They spent all that money on defense, and they had a great defense, and they were winning low-scoring games, and everything went wrong last year.
Yeah, and what happens when everything goes wrong? All the coaches get fired, and there's a brand new staff. And in my mind, that when you start with the Giants offseason, it starts with the new head coach in Pat Shurmur, the new offense coordinator in Mike Shula, and the new defense coordinator in James Bettcher. Now, Shurmur's a guy, the bright offensive mind, certainly an up-and-coming young head coach. And then, you have Bettcher as DC. Shurmur worked the Vikings last year. He was the guy that made Case Keenum great. Bettcher is a guy who is expected to be very aggressive on the defensive side, not a guy with previous coordinator experience. And then you have Shula, the son of the NFL's all-time winningest coach. He spent the last 5 years in Carolina as their offensive coordinator, served as the quarterback's coach before that. And frankly, the offense wasn't that good under Shula. They never finished in top 10 in total offense. They never finished better than 19th in passing yards with Cam Newton. Admittedly, he runs the football. They did lead the league in scoring in 2015, and they went 15-1 and lost the Super Bowl. But I don't know that Shula, in my mind, is a guy who has bet-on material coming out of the gate for Eli Manning and this Giants offense. And we start to talk about Eli Manning, Paulie. There are a number of concerns for a quarterback who is now 37 years old and has shown clear signs of decline in each of the last two seasons.
Just like Flacco. There go the stats every year. 37, as you mentioned last year, 26th in quarterback rating behind Brissett and just above Trubisky. The QBR, similar decline, goes down, down, down. You worry about his relationship with OBJ. And, yes, you have Barkley, but, Teddy, you got to have concerns about the offensive line, who was horrendous last year, and that's been the last 2 years. Last year, they were 27th rushing the football, and they couldn't run the ball 2 years ago either.
Yeah. And, of course, so what did they do for the offensive line? They made Nate Solder the highest paid offensive lineman in the league. Yes, they needed a left tackle, no question. I don't even know if Solder's an above average guy, And then they acquired, what's his name? Patrick Omama from Jacksonville, the guard. And then they added in the second round draft choice in Will Hernandez out of UTEP. So 3 potential new starters for this offensive line. Does that immediately make the offensive line better? No. It's a work in progress. It is a unit worth paying attention to. And if they can't block, Eli's going to get crushed. His QB rating is going to be down. Saquon Barkley's not going to have room to run. And it's going to be another long season for the Giants. You look at Eli, and of course they didn't draft another quarterback behind him. They're confident Davis Webb as their backup for Eli Manning. If he gets hurt, they're in trouble. And Manning stayed healthy before his career. We'll give him credit for that, even playing behind some dicey offensive lines. But when we look at this team offensively, there are still a fair few questions, even with a ton of skill position talent. Yeah, Saquon Barkley is a unique talent. OBJ is an incredible player. Eli Manning is probably a Hall of Famer. They have some talent, but getting the ball to that talent in space, in my mind, a major question mark for the Giants coming into the 2018 campaign. And that's why they're lined as a sub-500 team.
Didn't take a quarterback early, took a quarterback late, led in the 4th round, which they're just like the Jets taking a quarterback every year. I thought it was an egregious error not to put Webb in there at the end of the season. Shame on the New York fans who threw a fit when they went to Geno and thought, you can't bench Eli. Tank, go 2-14. Well, who cares with Eli Manning? Put someone else there and see if the Webb kid can play. We never saw that. So they take the kid out of Richmond in the 4th round. I like the pick of Hernandez in the 2nd round as well. No pass rush to speak of last year either. No heat on the quarterback, couldn't protect the quarterback, couldn't run the ball, and didn't have a pass rush. And we mentioned JPP out the door to Tampa Bay. Thoughts on the schedule?
Well, you look at the schedule right here. The Giants, the NFC East teams play the AFC South and the NFC South this year. So they'll get some warm weather games in the mix. The 2 extra games for the Giants, Chicago and at San Fran. And those are worth noting. All right. Chicago, a team that's white hot in the markets early on. Nothing but wise guy money supporting the Bears. I think they're going to be a lot better than last year. And considering Eli Manning's QB rating was right next to Mitch Trubisky, you can understand why. The other one, San Fran, another team that was weak last year and is expected to be much, much better in 2018. So the two extra games for the Giants, they're both a fair bit tougher than you normally find for a team coming off a 3-13 campaign. And that's a big part of the reason why the Giants are lined in that 6.5/7 range, as opposed to being lined as a 500 team. They're not a 500 team, and this is a tougher schedule than other teams in this division, which, again, you don't expect for a team coming off a last-place season.
How about out of the gate? Jacksonville, playoff team. At Dallas, tough game week 2. At Houston, Watson and Watt back. Saints at home. At Carolina, the champs, the Eagles at home on a Thursday. Then they go to Atlanta on a Monday night. Then they play the Redskins at home, and then it's the bye week. Oh, this could go sideways in a hurry, Teddy.
In a hurry. And then they come out of the bye and travel to San Fran. So I'll put it to you this way. There's not that much that I like about the New York Giants coming into 2018. If I'm playing the Giants, I'm playing them under the total, and they're a team that I would be more inclined to fade than to get involved with on a week-by-week basis until I'm convinced, A, that offensive line is good, and B, Eli Manning has something left in the tank. We'll debate that when it comes to shot clock time.
All right. It is shot clock time. Fire it on. Turn it up. He's 37 years old now. Is Eli done, or does he still have anything left? I say stick a fork in him. Look at the QBR. It was 41.7 2 years ago. It was 49.9, and this season wasn't that great a couple of years ago either. Even though they made the playoffs, he's had a weird career. Now I would take him over his brother in a big game, but it kind of happened. It was kind of like Flacco, right? Where Flacco hasn't done much in his career, but he just had the Joe Montana type playoff performance, highlighted by the luckiest play in NFL history, where he can't judge a long pass, goes over his head. They upset the Broncos on the road, and they parlay that into a Super Bowl win, and he gets the big contract. Eli's had great road playoffs and somehow playoff performances, and somehow was beat Brady twice in a Super Bowl, but it was the Tyree helmet catch and the Manningham play. So even though he's won games, he hasn't even played well with the spotlight's been on. So strange career, maybe a Hall of Famer, good debate, probably with 2 rings, he'll get in, but I say he's done, Teddy, at 37 years old, and you just see the numbers every year, last 3 years, numbers going down, quarterback rating, passer rating, not good, Teddy.
Last year's decline for Eli Manning had everything to do with the fact that his offensive line was a disaster and his receiving corps was a disaster. I understand a 37-year-old Eli is not a 27-year-old Eli, but I still think this guy has enough in the tank to lead his team potentially to a playoff victory or something like that. Eli's not toast. His arm isn't gone. He hasn't lost his decision-making ability. He hasn't lost his throwing ability. The team around him stunk last year. This year, the team around him's better. Eli will be decent. I think Eli still has something left in the tank. I will not stick a fork in this future Hall of Famer just yet, Mr. Howard. Not today, anyway.
All right, very good. Play of the day, money time. Betting number 903. Give us the Cubs minus 120 on the road. Good matchup, 39-26 against 37-25, but they have their number. Remember when they went in Milwaukee late last year and took 3 out of 4 to go pull away and win the division? They're 7-1 against them this year. And as we highlighted earlier, the Quintana numbers, he owns the Brewers in his career, and the Cubs own Milwaukee, and the Brewers cannot hit this Chicago starting staff as well. Give us the Cubs cheap on the road, minus 120 to keep it going and make it 8 out of 9 against Milwaukee. Back tomorrow, Tuesday, a lot to get to. Good MLB card. We'll know all the teams in the College World Series. More NFL as well. Later in the week, World Cup. And we got the U.S. Open and the World Cup starting on Thursday as well. We'll talk to you then. Thanks for watching. At Real Sportsbet on Twitter is at Teddy_covers. Sportsbet betting insight today on SBRpicks.com. Thanks for watching.